So this is episode number 4, and it's titled Fear and Arrogance. So one of the most common questions I had from people when I was talking to people on my walk across Canada was, aren't you scared? Scared of sleeping in the bush, scared of sleeping in the city. Just scared of wildlife, scared of, other people. And that was a real common question. And a lot of people commented on how much courage it took to do what I did. And I never really felt like it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of fortitude and stubbornness and desire, but I'm not sure about courage. But anyhow, it was quite a common question, and so fear played a big part in people being surprised that I was rough camping every night and never knew where I was going to sleep, and never knew who was kind of around the corner or behind the fence kind of thing. So I always tried to camp in what I thought was a relatively safe place, but not out of fear, more out of just common sense, kind of using your head kind of thing, and trusting your gut and what feels good. So, with the fear, talking about the fear I've always felt, whether you're going on a hike in the bush or walking down a city street, fear is such a limiting emotion. Fear stops you from doing things. Fear kind of takes away a chance of learning because you avoid it. I can say I had a fear of homeless people, and until I worked volunteering at a Out of the Cold program, I would avoid talking or making contact with homeless people out of fear. And once I did some volunteer work, my fear disappeared because I was informed, and so it limited me in that in learning about some of the challenges that and the type of people that we see on the street. And once I learned a little more, my fear dissipated. So, fear is very, very limiting, and it stops us from. I've talked to people that won't go for a walk out in the hills because they're scared of ticks, or scared of bears, or scared of coyotes, or cougar, and fear is generally a result of either poor information or no information, and it results in missed opportunities. The fear that that a person carries. So there's all kinds of subtle fears that we have that limit our activity, and recognizing them and then dealing with them opens up learning and gaining knowledge. And it has a wide variety of range of what we can be fearful of. So it's quite a limiting thing. And if fear was my guiding emotion on my walk, I probably wouldn't have gone on the walk, and I wouldn't have rough camped. If I did go on the walk, I'd have stayed in campgrounds, and I'd probably still be walking because there just isn't a campground every 40 kilometers, and or a motel. So the fear of rough camping would have made my 6-month journey into a either undoable or a much longer journey. So fear is very, very limiting. Now, on the other hand, arrogance can be very dangerous, and arrogance is usually a result of having the information and ignoring it. And whether the information comes from your belly or your heart, or somebody has taught you something, or you've experienced something, if you have good information and you ignore it, you can get into some dangerous situations. And I'll give you a couple examples. On my walk, I was aware that there was bears pretty well, throughout BC and all of Eastern Canada. I never in BC. I was going through the mountains, in March, April kind of thing, and the bears weren't around yet. Once I got to the East Coast, the bears were around, and I saw the odd trace, but I never really saw them. I never saw a single bear, actually, and so I wasn't concerned. I wasn't scared, and I just I was quite relaxed around that situation, except for one day. The day started by somebody telling me about bears in the area. And then a couple hours later, somebody else asked me about bears. And then a couple hours later, I get an email about bear attack out in BC. And the whole day just seemed to be about bears. So when I was setting up camp that night, I was looking for a place to camp. And I walked down a gravel road. And I just had this sense that, I didn't feel right on this road. I felt there was bears present, and I would be in their territory. And so I trusted my gut, and I trusted the other signals that have flowed in, with the email and people asking me about bears. And it just seemed like that was the day I needed to be bear aware. So I trusted my gut, and I said, you know what, this isn't the right road for me. And I turned around and went back out to the highway and kept walking. And as I got close to the highway, I came across a pile of bear scat that was still steaming. So turned out that was good information, and moving on was the right thing to do. So that was trusting my information, trusting what I knew, what I felt, and not being arrogant about, I'm going to camp here no matter what. So my arrogance led me down the road, but then I realized this wasn't the place for me and moved on. So there's an example of, if I'd have stuck it out and camped there, that would have been really stupid, and that would have been arrogant, and that would have been dangerous. And then another example I'll give you was I was camping at Yoho National Park. I used to go there once a year for a 4-day vision quest, and I got there too early one year, so the road up the Yoho Valley was still closed, and there'd been a snowslide partway up. So I camped down at the bottom, and I walked up, and I got quite a ways up, and I ran across a group of tourists, and they asked me if I was scared about walking alone and about bears. And I said, no, I'm not. The bears right now will be in the lower valleys, eating the skunk cabbage and enjoying the green vegetables at lower elevations. And so I explained this to them, and they felt, I think they felt somewhat relieved. And so the next day, excuse me, the next day I went for a walk in the lower valleys and down past the Natural Bridge, past Emerald Lake there. So it's a beautiful walk if you ever want to do it down the Forest Service Road. You come across 3 rivers, I think the Otter Tail and the 2 more. It's a wonderful walk, and you can actually go swimming in some of the rivers there where they join the Kicking Horse. And so I'm walking, and there's nobody else around, and I take off on a side road, and I start noticing the odd bear scat, and I ignored that warning. And then I walk a little farther and I see more bear scat, and then I start seeing a lot of bear scat. And then I realized that exactly what I told those people yesterday was true. The bears are down in the lower valley and enjoying the green vegetation, and I was walking in their territory right now. And I had all the information, and yet I chose to ignore it, and I went for a walk down there. And I realized the error in my ways, and turned around and started walking back. So that was arrogant of me. I knew I had good information that I had learned and experienced, and yet I chose to ignore it, and I went walking by myself amongst the bears. Like I say, there's lots of bear scat, and so that was arrogant, and it was dangerous, and it wasn't very smart, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. So there's the difference. My arrogance was dangerous, and it's not a brave thing to do, to be arrogant. You're best to listen to your gut, listen to the things you've learned, and listen to your senses, listen to your gut, listen to your ears. What do you hear and what do you feel? And if you feel it's not a good place to be, and there's other information coming in, then it's time to move on. But don't let fear limit you from doing those sorts of outdoor adventures. My fear of ticks was real until I learned more about ticks, like I explained in my previous video. So yeah, it can be kind of a dance between fear and arrogance, and gaining experience and having adventure and learning things, especially in the outdoors. But it applies to everyday life also. As far as limiting ourselves or ignoring what we know is wrong, and we still go ahead and do it out of arrogance, and that's problematic for most of us, and probably for the people you're around also. So yeah, so that was kind of my experience, and the lesson I realized on my journey, and good to keep in mind, and to know the difference between the two, and helps you get through your day and keeps it exciting. Okay, well, thank you for joining me. Next week's talk, we're going to talk about the experience I had with the wolf, and the spiritual experience I had with the wolf, and the physical experience, and the people I interacted with. So that'll be on next Friday's video. Okay, have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.